Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We're doing something a little bit special today because we are going to lean completely into a pure story format. We are stepping way back in time to ancient India, right into the heart of a traditional ashrama. We're tracking a profoundly beautiful narrative about the pursuit of truth, radical patience, and how we actually process and perfect the knowledge we gather from the world. This is the story of a young boy named Satyakama. He walks right up to a revered teacher, Sage Haridrumata Gautama, with a pretty life-changing request. He wants to become a student, a brahmacharian. But, back in this era, getting accepted by a master wasn't as simple as just filling out an application. It required passing rigorous tests, and those tests started from the very first breath of conversation.
So picture the scene. The sage looks down at the young boy and asks him this fundamental question. Dear boy, of what gotra or lineage are you? Now, to really grasp the weight of this, we have to put ourselves in the mindset of that time. Your lineage, your gotra, was basically your entire spiritual and social resume. It dictated your status, your background, and most importantly, whether you were actually considered qualified to receive sacred knowledge. It was the ultimate gatekeeper question. If you didn't have the right lineage, those doors were firmly shut. So for a young kid standing before a legendary sage, this is a moment of immense make-or-break pressure.
And the thing is, Satyakama actually has no idea what the answer is, so he does the only thing he can do. He runs home and asks his mother, Jabala, and her response is just incredibly striking in its radical honesty. She tells him, I used to serve many people, and I got you in my youth, so I am not sure of what lineage you are. She doesn't invent some prestigious backstory for him. She doesn't try to game the system at all. She simply says, I am Jabala by name, and you are Satyakama. She arms him with absolutely nothing but the unvarnished truth. When Satyakama goes back to the sage, he doesn't sugarcoat it. He repeats his mother's exact words, strips away any pretense, and presents himself just as he is, Satyakama Jabala.
Now, the really crucial point of the story is how the sage reacts. You'd completely expect him to just turn the boy away right there for lacking the credentials. But instead, Rishi Haridrumata Gautama actually smiles. He is absolutely delighted. He tells the boy, no one who is not a Brahmin can speak thus. You have not deviated from truth. By being so relentlessly, brutally honest, Satyakama proved his true worth. The sage instantly recognizes that true nobility isn't about bloodlines, it's about the unshakable integrity in your heart. Because he didn't flinch from the truth, boom, he's initiated, he's in. But as we'll see, getting in is literally just the beginning.
That brings us to the next chapter of our story, the forest trial, which is essentially the ultimate test of patience.
See, in this ancient system, a student wasn't just handed a stack of text to memorize. They had to be molded to actually receive the knowledge. They needed grit. So the sage gives his brand new student his very first assignment, and it is a nightmare of a task. He separates out 400 lean, weak, sickly cows from the ashrama's herd, hands them over, and tells the boy to take them deep into the forest and graze them. Think about the sheer physical and mental burden here. He's a young kid, completely isolated in the wilderness, and his job is to rehabilitate 400 frail animals. It's an exercise entirely designed to break a fragile ego and build profound resilience. But look at how Satyakama handles this. He doesn't complain, he doesn't ask for a lighter load, he bows, takes charge of the herd, and actually makes an incredible self-imposed vow. He tells his guru, Sir, I shall not return till these cows multiply into 1,000. He takes this incredibly difficult challenge and literally elevates it. He commits himself to an indefinite exile in the forest, tying his own fate entirely to the flourishing of these animals.
And so, years go by. Not days, not weeks, years. Day in and day out, he's just out there tending to the herd, learning the rhythms of nature and practicing this unbelievable patience and focus. Slowly, the lean cows grow healthy, they breed, and the herd grows. Until finally, after years of silent, dedicated work, he hits that magical milestone. 1,000 cows. He fulfilled his ambitious promise. The external trial is completely done. But the real education? That's about to kick into high gear.
Which brings us to part 2, the 4 quarters of Brahman and the incredibly unexpected teachers of the forest.
So, Satyakama has proven his dedication, and it's time to head home. But the forest isn't quite done with him yet. On his journey back to the ashrama, he experiences this series of profound revelations. It plays out like a beautifully rhythmic timeline over 4 days. Every evening, he pens the 1,000 cows, kindles a fire, and sits down behind it, facing east, creating this space of utter stillness. And into that stillness, nature itself starts talking.
On the very first evening, a literal bull steps forward from the herd and promises to teach him. The next evening, the fire he built speaks to him. On the third evening, a swan flies in with a lesson, and on the fourth evening, a waterfowl appears. The universe itself steps up to be his teacher.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly structured this cosmic curriculum actually is. These aren't just random encounters. They divide the knowledge of Brahman into 4 specific quarters. First, the bull teaches him that Brahman is Prakashavan, the radiant. The fire then teaches that Brahman is Anantavan, the endless. Then the swan swoops in to teach Jyochashman, the effulgent. And finally, the waterfowl drops the 4th quarter, Ayatanavan, the all-supporting. So over 4 nights, through an animal of the earth, the element of fire, a bird of the air, and a bird of the water, Satyakama absorbs this incredibly holistic, elemental understanding of reality.
All right, the final chapter of our story, the perfect knowledge and returning to the guru.
So he arrives back at the ashrama, driving these 1,000 healthy cows. And his guru doesn't even look at the herd. He looks right at Satyakama's face and basically says, "Dear boy, you are shining with the knowledge of Brahman. Who taught you?" The transformation is so profound it's physically visible. So Satyakama tells him the whole crazy story about the bull, the fire, the swan, and the waterfowl. But then we get this amazing narrative twist. He possesses this vast cosmic knowledge, yet he bows to his teacher and says, "Sir, I now request you to expound it to me personally, because I know that the knowledge received directly from one's own guru becomes perfect." Even after all that solitary triumph, he remains entirely humble. He knows there's a difference between gathering profound experiences and actually integrating them into perfect wisdom.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core concept of effective learning that is absolutely still true today. On the left, we have knowledge from the world. These are those raw, powerful, undeniable experiences Satyakama gained out in the wild. It's direct data, vital stuff. But on the right side, we have knowledge from the guru. The teacher doesn't just parrot back what the animal said. The text notes that the guru taught him the same thing again by adding more meaning to all of it. The human guide frames the raw data, contextualizes it, and sharpens it into something perfect. You need that wild, raw experience? Absolutely. But you also need that guided refinement.
Through this synthesis of radical honesty, years of patient endurance, his openness to learn from literally everything around him, and finally, his humility to seek guided refinement, the whole story comes full circle. Satyakama didn't just learn some trivia. He got the full, perfected knowledge of Brahman. That young boy who didn't even know his own lineage broke through every social barrier of his time to achieve enlightenment, and eventually, he became a legendary, revered teacher himself.
It's just such a wonderfully structured story of transformation. And as we wrap up this explainer, I want to bounce a thought back to you. We live in an age where we are constantly absorbing raw data, facts, and experiences from the world around us. We have all the information at our fingertips, our own modern-day bulls and swans and fires, right? But the story of Satyakama challenges us to look a little deeper. You've gathered all these facts from the world, but who or what is your guide to perfect them? Who is helping you cut through the noise and actually add meaning? Think about that as you continue your own journey of learning. Thanks for joining me on this one, and keep seeking that perfect knowledge.